Daiwan checked his shield generator for the third time that morning. The small device attached to his left arm hummed quietly, its blue lights blinking in a steady pattern. He had been working as a bodyguard for 2 years now, but this piece of equipment still made him nervous. It was a prototype from Earth's military labs capable of stopping almost any attack, but it could only work once. After that, it would break forever. "Stop worrying about that thing," said Yuna, walking up beside him. She was human too, one of the few working in this part of the galaxy. She served as a handmaiden in the Velkari royal household. "You've never needed to use it before. Why would today be different?" Daiwan shrugged. "Just a feeling." They stood in the cargo bay of a transport ship waiting for the passenger to arrive. Daiwan had been hired by the Intergalactic Protection Guild for what his boss called a simple escort job. A diplomatic convoy needed extra security while traveling through contested space. The pay was good and the danger was supposed to be low. He had done dozens of jobs like this. The doors opened and Daiwan's jaw dropped slightly. Princess Lyrae of the Velkari Empire walked into the bay, surrounded by 6 tall guards in silver armor. She was beautiful in a way that seemed unreal, with skin that shimmered like pearl and eyes that held colors Daiwan had never seen before. The Velkari were one of the most powerful species in the galaxy, and humans were considered beneath them. Daiwan had never been this close to Velkari royalty before. Yuna bowed deeply and Daiwan quickly did the same. The princess barely glanced at them as she boarded her private shuttle pod. The head guard, a massive Velkari warrior named Korath, looked at Daiwan with obvious disgust. "A human?" Korath said. "We brought a human for security?" "The guild sent their available people," replied the convoy commander. "He has a good record." Korath snorted but said nothing more. The convoy prepared to depart. 3 ships in total would make the journey: the princess's shuttle, a military escort frigate, and the transport where Daiwan waited. The trip would take 6 hours through a region where rebel groups sometimes operated. But with a military escort, everyone expected a quiet journey. For the first 4 hours, everything went smoothly. Daiwan sat in the transport's crew quarters, cleaning his pistol and trying not to think about the shield on his arm. Yuna brought him a meal and sat down across from him. "First time seeing a Velkari princess?" she asked with a small smile. "First time seeing any Velkari up close," Daiwan admitted. "They don't usually hire humans for jobs like this." "Things are changing," Yuna said. Slowly, very slowly. "The princess actually supports better treatment for humans. She's not like most Velkari nobles." Before Daiwan could respond, alarms screamed throughout the ship. Red lights flashed and the deck tilted violently beneath their feet. The intercom crackled to life. "Multiple hostile contacts. We're under attack. All security personnel to combat stations." Daiwan grabbed his rifle and ran toward the bridge. Through the windows he could see space filling with small fighter craft, all bearing the mark of the Krell Syndicate. The rebels had found them. Energy blast lit up the darkness as the military frigate fired back, but there were too many enemies. "The princess's shuttle is breaking away," someone shouted. "They're trying to run." Daiwan watched in horror as the small royal shuttle accelerated away from the convoy, trying to escape. But 6 Krell fighters broke off from the main group and pursued it. The shuttle's shields flickered under their weapons' fire. "Korath and his guards are down." The convoy commander's voice was panicked now. "The shuttle's defense systems are failing." "They're launching a missile!" Daiwan saw it happen as if in slow motion. One of the Krell fighters released a large missile that streaked toward the royal shuttle. The weapon's energy signature made his blood run cold. That was an antimatter warhead, capable of destroying a small moon. The shuttle tried to dodge, but it was too slow, too damaged. In that moment, Daiwan didn't think. He just acted. He ran to the transport's emergency airlock, grabbed a thruster pack, and launched himself into space. The cold of the void hit him instantly, even through his suit. He fired the thruster at maximum power, racing toward the princess's shuttle. "What is that idiot doing?" He heard someone yell over the radio. The missile was seconds from impact. Daiwan slammed into the side of the royal shuttle just as the warhead detonated. He activated his shield generator, throwing every bit of power it had into the energy barrier. The world turned white. The explosion was like being hit by a star. The shield held for exactly 2 seconds before the generator on Daiwan's arm exploded in a shower of sparks and melted metal. But 2 seconds was enough. The shield had absorbed most of the blast, redirecting it away from the shuttle. The force threw Daewon spinning into the darkness, his vision fading as pain filled every nerve in his body. He heard Yuna's voice screaming his name over the radio. He saw the Krell fighters retreating as reinforcements arrived. He saw the royal shuttle, damaged but intact, turning back toward him. Then everything went black. When Daewon woke up, everything hurt. His head pounded. His chest felt like it was on fire, and his left arm was wrapped in bandages up to the shoulder. He tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. "Don't move." The voice was soft but commanding. Daewon's eyes focused slowly. Princess Lyrae sat beside his bed, watching him with those incredible color-shifting eyes. "You've been unconscious for 3 days." Daewon's mouth felt like sand. "The attack ended. The Krell fled when our reinforcements arrived. My mother's fleet is hunting them now." She leaned forward, and Daewon noticed she looked tired, like she hadn't slept much. "You saved my life. A human saved the crown princess of the Velkari Empire." "Just doing my job," Daewon managed to say. "By destroying irreplaceable Earth military technology and nearly dying." For the first time, she smiled. "That's not in any job description I've read." Daewon tried to smile back but winced at the pain. "Is the shield really gone?" "Completely destroyed. The medical team had to remove pieces of it from your arm." Lyrae stood up and her expression became serious. "Do you understand what you've done? Not just saving me, but how you did it. You're human. In Velkari society, that means you're considered a lesser species. But you sacrificed something precious to save someone you didn't even know. You created a debt of honor." "I don't understand," Daewon said. "You will soon." Lyrae moved toward the door, then paused and looked back. "My mother wants to meet you. The Empress herself. When you're well enough to stand, you'll be summoned to the throne room." She hesitated, then added quietly, "Thank you, Daewon. Truly." After she left, Yuna rushed in, tears streaming down her face. "You're awake! You stupid, brave, wonderful idiot." She hugged him carefully, avoiding his bandaged arm. "Do you have any idea what's happening out there? The whole Empire is talking about you. A human who broke his shield to save the princess. It's unprecedented." Daewon closed his eyes, exhausted. He had only wanted to do the right thing in that moment. He had no idea that his broken shield would change everything. Not just for him, but for every human in the Velkari Empire. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity was capable of more than anyone had imagined. Outside his window, he could see the massive towers of the Velkari homeworld rising into an alien sky. Somewhere in those towers, an empress was making decisions that would alter the course of history, and somehow a simple human bodyguard had become part of something much bigger than himself. The Royal Medical Bay was nothing like the hospitals on Earth. Everything gleamed with technology Daewon didn't understand. Machines hummed around him, healing his injuries faster than should be possible. Within a week, he could walk again. Within 2 weeks, the burns on his arm had faded to pink scars. Yuna visited him every day, bringing news from outside. She explained things about Velkari culture that Daewon had never known. The Velkari believed in something called the debt of honor. If someone saved your life through great sacrifice, you owed them everything until that debt was repaid. For a member of the royal family, that debt was even more serious. "They're arguing about you in the noble houses," Yuna told him one afternoon. She sat by his bed, peeling a fruit that looked like a blue apple. "Some say the Empress should reward you with money and send you home. Others say a human doesn't deserve any reward at all. But Princess Lyrae has been arguing for something different." "What does she want?" Daewon asked. Yuna smiled. "She won't say. But she's been meeting with her mother every day. The whole palace is buzzing with rumors. Princess Lyrae herself visited him often. At first she came with guards and servants, keeping everything formal and proper. But as the days passed, she started coming alone, usually in the evening when fewer people were around. They talked about many things. She asked questions about Earth, about human culture, about what it was like growing up on the colony worlds. "I've never left the Imperial Core worlds," she admitted one night. "My mother says it's too dangerous. But I read everything I can about other species, other cultures. Most Velkari think we're superior to everyone else. They think our way is the only right way. I've never believed that." Daewon sat up in his bed, interested. "That must be difficult. Being royal but disagreeing with your own people. You have no idea." Lyrae looked tired when she said it. "I've been trying to change laws for years. Better treatment for non-Velkari workers, More rights for visiting species. Educational exchanges. Every time the noble houses block me. They say I'm young and idealistic, that I don't understand tradition. Sometimes tradition needs to change, Day One said quietly. He thought about his own childhood, growing up poor on a mining colony where humans were treated as cheap labor. Change is hard, but it's necessary. Lyrae looked at him with something like gratitude in her strange, beautiful eyes. I wish more people understood that. On the 15th day after the attack, 2 royal guards came to Day One's room in full ceremonial armor. The Empress summons you to the throne room, one of them announced. You will come now. Yuna helped him dress in the finest clothes she could find, though they were still simple compared to what Velkhari wore. Be respectful, she whispered as she fixed his collar. The Empress is not cruel, but she is very traditional. Choose your words carefully. The throne room was enormous. Tall pillars rose toward a ceiling so high it disappeared in shadows. Hundreds of Velkhari nobles stood along both sides of a long walkway, all watching Day One as he entered. He felt their eyes on him, felt their judgment. To them he was just a human, a lesser being who had somehow gotten involved in royal affairs. At the far end of the room sat Empress Valera on a throne that seemed carved from a single piece of crystal. She was older than her daughter, but just as beautiful, with silver in her hair and a presence that made Day One want to kneel before she even spoke. Princess Lyrae stood beside the throne, her face carefully neutral. Day One walked forward and knelt as Yuna had taught him. Your Imperial Majesty, he said, keeping his eyes down. Rise, Day One of Earth, the Empress said. Her voice filled the entire chamber. Let all present see the human who saved my daughter's life. Day One stood, trying not to shake. The nobles whispered to each other, the sound like wind through trees. You destroyed valuable technology to protect Princess Lyrae, the Empress continued. You nearly died in the process. By the ancient laws of our people, this creates a debt of honor that cannot be ignored. The question before this court is simple. How do we repay such a debt to a human? A tall noble stepped forward from the crowd. His robes were decorated with medals and symbols of rank. Your Majesty, offer him money, 100,000 credits, maybe a small title. Then send him back to Earth. We cannot let one human's actions disrupt our entire social order. Other nobles murmured agreement. But Lyrae's hands clenched into fists at her sides. The Empress raised one hand and silence fell instantly. Lord Theron makes a traditional argument. But what Day One did was not traditional. He made a choice that most Velkhari warriors would not make. He valued my daughter's life above his own safety, above his possessions, above everything. She stood up from her throne, and every noble in the room seemed to hold their breath. Therefore, I make a decision that is also not traditional. Day One of Earth, I grant you full citizenship in the Velkhari Empire. From this moment forward, you have all the rights and protections of any Velkhari-born citizen. You may live here, work here, and speak in our councils. This has never been done before for a human. But you have earned it. The throne room exploded with noise. Nobles shouted in surprise, anger, or confusion. Lord Theron's face turned dark with rage. But Day One barely heard any of it. He was looking at Princess Lyrae, who was smiling at him with pure joy. Silence, the Empress commanded. The room obeyed. My decision is final. Let anyone who questions it remember that this human did what many of you would not have done. He proved that honor exists beyond our species. That courage has no limitations based on birth or blood. Day One bowed deeply. Thank you, Your Majesty. I don't know what to say. Say you will honor this gift, the Empress replied. Say you will show other humans that they too can earn respect in our empire. I will, Day One promised. As the court session ended and nobles filed out in small groups, still arguing, Lord Theron approached Day One. Up close, the noble was even more intimidating, tall and muscular with scars that spoke of many battles. This is wrong, Theron said quietly, his voice cold. The Empress makes a mistake. Humans are not capable of understanding our ways. You will fail, and when you do, you will prove that my people were right to keep your kind beneath us. I'm sorry you feel that way, Day One replied, trying to stay calm. You will be sorry, Theron said. Our laws allow me to challenge your citizenship through the trial of worth. I invoke that right. You have 1 month to prepare. If you fail the trial, you lose your citizenship and must leave the Empire forever. If you refuse the trial, the same happens. There is no escape. Theron walked away before Day One could respond. Yuna rushed to his side, her face pale. The trial of worth is incredibly dangerous. Even Velkari warriors die attempting it. But Princess Lyrae approached as well, and she didn't look worried. She looked determined. Don't be afraid, she said softly. The trial can be passed. I will help you prepare. We will not let Theron take this away from you. Why are you doing all this for me? Daewon asked her. The citizenship, the help. I just did what anyone would do, Lyrae smiled. No, you did what most people wouldn't do. You saw someone in danger and acted without thinking of yourself. That's rare, Daewon. Rarer than you know, and perhaps... She hesitated, then continued. Perhaps I want to prove that change is possible, that the old ways aren't always the best ways. You're important now, not just to me, but to everyone who believes the Empire can be better. As Daewon left the throne room with Yuna and Lyrae, walking through halls of alien splendor toward an uncertain future, he realized his life had changed forever. The simple bodyguard from Earth was gone. In his place stood something new, a bridge between species, a symbol of possibility and whether he wanted it or not, a piece in a game of politics that could reshape the galaxy. The broken shield had opened a door. Now he had to walk through it. The training hall was empty except for Daewon and Princess Lyrae. For 3 weeks, she had been teaching him everything she could about Velkari combat and philosophy. Every evening after her official duties ended, she would come to this private room and spend hours with him. Again, Lyrae said, watching as Daewon practiced a defensive stance. Your balance is still too far forward. Velkari combat is about patience and precision, not aggression. Daewon adjusted his position and tried again. Sweat dripped down his face. He had been training for 6 hours straight. On Earth, we fight differently. We fight to survive using whatever works. That might help you in the second trial, Lyrae said. She moved closer to correct his arm position, and Daewon caught the scent of something like flowers. But you need to understand our way, too. The trial of worth judges more than just strength. Yuna entered carrying water and food. She had become Daewon's unofficial assistant, helping him study Velkari history and customs late into the night. You need to rest, she told him. You're pushing too hard. The trial is in 1 week, Daewon replied, drinking the water gratefully. I need to be ready. You will be, Lyrae said softly. When Yuna left to get more supplies, she added, I have faith in you, Daewon. More than you know. Their eyes met and something passed between them. Over these weeks of training together, Daewon had felt something growing. It wasn't just gratitude or friendship. Every time Lyrae smiled at him, every time she touched his arm to fix his stance, his heart beat faster. But she was a princess and he was just a human. Nothing could happen between them. Still, sometimes he caught her looking at him in a way that made him wonder. The day of the trial of worth arrived. The arena was packed with thousands of Velkari, all come to watch the human either prove himself or fail spectacularly. Lord Theron sat in a place of honor, looking confident. The Empress watched from her royal box, her face showing nothing. Daewon stood in the center of the arena wearing simple combat clothes. 3 judges in ancient robes approached him. The eldest spoke in a voice that echoed through the space. The trial of worth consists of 3 challenges. Mind, body, and spirit. You must pass all 3 to earn your citizenship permanently. Fail even one and you must leave the Empire forever. Do you accept these terms? I accept, Daewon said, his voice steady despite his nerves. The first challenge began immediately. The judges led him to a large table covered with a strange 3-dimensional puzzle. Pieces of crystal and metal floated in the air, held by magnetic fields. This is the puzzle of generals, the judge explained. It represents a famous battle from our history. You must find a way to win the battle using only the pieces provided. Many Velkari scholars have tried and failed. Daewon studied the puzzle carefully. The pieces represented armies and defenses. The goal seemed to be getting past an impossible defense to capture a central point. He could see why it stumped Velkari thinkers. Their culture valued direct, honorable combat. Every solution they would try would involve facing the defenses head-on. But humans thought differently. Daewon smiled and started moving pieces. Instead of attacking the defenses, he moved his forces to a position that looked like retreat. Then he used the smallest, weakest pieces to create a distraction on one side. While the defenses focused there, he sent his main force around through a path no one had considered. one that went backward before going forward. The crowd gasped as the solution revealed itself. The central point fell without a single direct attack. The judge nodded slowly. You found a path no Velkari has ever seen. The challenge of mind is past. The second challenge was combat. 3 Velkari warriors entered the arena, all famous champions. They were bigger, stronger, and faster than day one. The rules were simple. Survive for 10 minutes or defeat all 3. Most challengers didn't last 2 minutes. The champions attacked together, coordinated and skilled. Day one dodged the first strike, blocked the second, but the third caught him in the ribs and sent him rolling across the sand. Pain exploded through his side. He got up, breathing hard. He couldn't match their strength or speed, but he could think. Day one ran toward the arena walls and the champions chased him. He grabbed sand and threw it in one warrior's eyes, then used the wall to jump higher than expected, coming down behind another champion. He fought dirty, using every trick he had learned in rough colony bars and mercenary missions. He didn't fight with honor. He fought to win. The crowd didn't know whether to cheer or boo. This wasn't how Velkari fought, but it was working. Day one used the environment, used deception, made the champions get in each other's way. When one champion swung at him, he ducked, and the blow hit another champion instead. He was tired, bleeding, barely standing, but he was still fighting. At the 9-minute mark, 2 champions were down and the third was exhausted. Day one landed one final strike and the champion fell. The arena went silent, then erupted in mixed reactions. Some cheered the incredible display. Others shouted that this wasn't real combat. The judge raised his hand for silence. The challenge of body is past. Victory by any means is still victory. The final challenge was different. The judges brought out a single chair and asked Day one to sit. For the challenge of spirit, you must answer one question with complete truth. There is no right answer, only an honest one. Your response will be judged by its sincerity and wisdom. The eldest judge looked into Day one's eyes. A transport ship is under attack. It carries 50 civilian refugees, mostly children. You have the power to save them, but only if you abandon your pursuit of a war criminal who killed thousands and will kill thousands more if he escapes. You can only choose one. What do you do? Day one felt the weight of the question. He thought about the attack that started all this, about Princess Lyrae nearly dying, about all the people who had suffered because of violence and war. He took a deep breath. I save the civilians, he said quietly. The war criminal is important, yes. Stopping him could save many lives in the future. But those children are dying right now in front of me. I can't ignore people who need help immediately for the possibility of helping others later. Maybe that makes me short-sighted. Maybe a better strategist would make the other choice. But I would save those children and live with the consequences. The arena was completely silent. Lord Theron stood up looking angry. That's weakness. A true leader must sacrifice the few to save the many. But the Empress stood as well. That is compassion. And compassion is not weakness. She looked at the judges. What is your decision? The 3 judges conferred quietly. Finally, the eldest spoke. The challenge of spirit is past. Honor without mercy is merely pride. The human understands this. He has proven his worth. The arena exploded with noise again, but this time more cheers than protests. Day one had passed. His citizenship was real and permanent. He saw Princess Lyrae in the royal box, tears streaming down her face, smiling at him with pure joy. That night there was a feast to celebrate. Day one, exhausted and bruised, tried to be social, but eventually slipped away to a balcony for fresh air. He heard footsteps behind him and turned to see Lyrae approaching. You did it, she said, her voice full of emotion. I knew you would, but watching it was terrifying. I had a good teacher, Day one replied. Lyrae stepped closer. Day one, I need to tell you something. These weeks we've spent together training, talking, learning about each other. I've felt something I've never felt before. I know it's inappropriate. I know our positions make it impossible. But I can't keep pretending. I'm falling in love with you. Day one's heart stopped. Lyrae, I've been trying not to feel the same thing. You're a princess. I'm just a human who got lucky. You're not just anything, Lyrae said fiercely. You're brave and kind, and you see the world differently than anyone I've ever met. I don't care about positions or politics. I care about you. She kissed him then, and Day one kissed her back, all the feelings he'd been suppressing rushing to the surface. For a perfect moment, nothing else mattered. Then the window behind them exploded. Glass shattered everywhere as three figures in black leaped onto the balcony, weapons drawn. Assassins. Day One pushed Lyrae behind him, but she wouldn't stay back. She grabbed a piece of broken glass and stood beside him. "Get down," she shouted. The fight was brief and brutal. Day One, already injured from the trial, fought with desperate strength. Lyrae moved with royal combat training, graceful but deadly. When one assassin aimed a blade at Day One's back, Lyrae threw herself in the way. The blade cut across her arm and she cried out in pain. Seeing her hurt filled Day One with rage. He fought like a human cornered, like someone protecting what he loved most. He broke one assassin's arm, knocked another unconscious, and the third fled when palace guards finally arrived. Day One held Lyrae as medical staff rushed to help her. "Why did you do that?" he asked, his voice shaking. She smiled despite the pain. "Because you jumped in front of a missile for me once. Now we're even." As guards searched for more assassins and investigated who sent them, Day One realized something important. His life would never be simple again. But looking at Lyrae, seeing the woman who had just risked herself for him as he had for her, he knew he wouldn't change anything. Whatever came next, they would face it together. The investigation moved quickly. Within 2 days, the palace guards had traced the assassins back to a network of conspirators, funded by noble houses. Lord Theron's name appeared in the financial records, though he denied everything. The evidence wasn't strong enough to arrest him, but everyone knew the truth. Day One sat in a secure room while Empress Valira's investigators questioned him for the third time. They wanted every detail about the attack, about his relationship with the princess, about everything. Lyrae's arm had been treated and healed, but the event had shaken the entire palace. "This cannot continue," the Empress said when she finally summoned both Day One and her daughter to a private meeting. "No guards, no servants, just the three of them. The conservative faction sees you as a threat, Day One. They tried to kill you once. They will try again." "I can protect myself," Day One said. "Can you?" The Empress looked at him with eyes that seemed to see everything. "Can you protect my daughter too? Because that's what this is really about. The whole empire has noticed how Lyrae looks at you, how you look at her. The rumors are everywhere." Lyrae stood up straighter. "Mother, I don't care about rumors. Day One saved my life twice now. I have feelings for him and I'm not going to hide them." "I'm not asking you to hide them," the Empress said calmly. "I'm asking you to formalize them." Both Day One and Lyrae stared at her in shock. The Empress continued. "If you marry, it changes everything. Day One would become part of the royal family. Attacking him would be attacking us directly. More importantly, it would send a message to every species in the empire that we value merit over birth, courage over bloodlines." "You want us to marry for politics?" Lyrae's voice was cold. "I want you to marry for love," the Empress replied, "but I would be a fool not to recognize the political benefits." "Lyrae, you've been refusing marriage proposals for years. 17 noble sons, all rejected. Now you've found someone you actually care about. Why not make it official?" Day One's head was spinning. "Your Majesty, I'm just a human. A bodyguard. I don't know anything about being royal or politics or any of this. How can I marry a princess?" The Empress smiled slightly. "You passed the trial of worth. You survived an assassination attempt. You've already proven you can handle difficult situations. Being part of this family is just another challenge." Her expression became serious again. "But I won't force this. Think about it. Both of you. You have time to decide." After they left the Empress's chambers, Day One walked through the palace gardens with Yuna. She had become his closest friend and advisor, the one person he could talk to honestly about everything. "This is crazy," Day One said, sitting on a bench beside an alien fountain. "Me marry Princess Lyrae? It's like something from a fantasy story." "Is it?" Yuna asked. "You love her, don't you?" "Yes," Day One admitted. "But that's not the point. If I marry her, I'm doing it because it helps the empire politically. How is that different from an arranged marriage? How will I know if we're together because we want to be, or because it's useful?" Yuna was quiet for a moment. "My friend Taysun, the mercenary pilot, he told me something once. He said that love and duty don't have to be enemies. Sometimes they work together. You can marry Lyrae because you love her, and because it's good for the empire. Both things can be true. But what if she's only agreeing because her mother wants it?" Day One said. "Then ask her," Yuna replied simply. "Talk to her. That's what people who love each other do." Day One found Lyrae in her private study that evening. She was looking at reports, but she put them down when he entered. I was hoping you'd come, she said. We need to talk about what your mother said, Daewon began. Lyrae nodded. I know, and I need to tell you something first. Over the years, I've had 17 marriage proposals from Velkari nobles. Some were powerful, some were handsome, some were actually kind. I rejected every single one. Do you know why? Why? Daewon asked. Because they all saw me as the princess, as a path to power or a prize to win or a duty to fulfill. None of them saw Lyrae, the person who likes to read old books and hates formal dinners, who dreams of exploring distant worlds but is trapped by her position, who wants to change the empire but feels powerless to do it. She stood up and walked to him. You see me, Daewon. When you look at me, you don't see a princess. You see a person. That's why I love you. I see the princess too, Daewon said honestly. I see how hard you work, how much you care about your people, how brave you are. I see all of it. Then marry me, Lyrae said. Not because my mother suggested it. Not because it's politically smart. Marry me because when I almost died in that attack, all I could think was that I wanted more time with you. Marry me because you're the first person who ever made me feel like I could be myself. Daewon pulled her close and kissed her. Yes, he said when they broke apart. Yes, I'll marry you. The public announcement happened 3 days later. The entire empire watched as Princess Lyrae and Daewon stood together on the palace balcony, the Empress beside them. When she declared their engagement, the reaction was immediate and divided. In the streets below, some people cheered. Others protested. News spread across every world in the empire within hours. On Earth and human colonies, the reaction was celebration. Daewon's face appeared on every screen. A human was going to marry into the most powerful royal family in this part of the galaxy. It was a moment of pride for all humanity. But in the noble houses of the Velkari homeworld, rage was building. Lord Theron called an emergency meeting of the conservative faction. Daewon only learned about it later from intelligence reports. Theron had declared the royal family corrupted by human influence. He claimed they needed to be removed for the good of the empire. Within a week of the engagement announcement, Lord Theron made his move. 3 noble houses joined him openly, declaring rebellion against the Empress. Their private military fleets assembled in orbit around a distant world preparing for war. The Empress called a war council, and for the first time, Daewon was invited. He sat in a room with the Empire's top military leaders, feeling completely out of place. Maps of space showed the rebel positions, their fleet strength, their likely strategies. They outnumber us in ships, Admiral Coven reported. Not by much, but enough to make a straight battle costly. They're betting we won't want to shed Velkari blood. They're right, the Empress said. Civil war will weaken us for generations. But we cannot let rebellion go unpunished either. Daewon studied the maps carefully. Something about the rebel positioning seemed familiar. He had seen this kind of setup before in mercenary conflicts. May I speak? He asked. The admirals looked at him with mixed reactions. Some seemed offended that a human would dare. Others were curious. The Empress nodded. Speak, Daewon. You're part of this family now. Your voice matters. The rebel position is strong for a defensive battle, Daewon said. But it's weak against unconventional tactics. They're expecting you to fight like Velkari, with honor and direct engagement. What if we don't? Explain, Admiral Coven said, leaning forward. Daewon pointed to areas on the map. Humans fight differently. We use deception, misdirection, psychological warfare. We make the enemy afraid and confused. Look here, their supply lines are exposed. And here, their communication relays are vulnerable. We don't need to beat their fleet in battle. We need to make them collapse from within. The room erupted in argument. Some admirals called it dishonorable. Others said it was brilliant. Princess Lyrae stood up. During the trial of worth, Daewon defeated 3 champions using tactics no Velkari would try. It worked. His ideas are worth considering. The Empress studied the maps, then looked at Daewon. Develop a full plan. Work with Admiral Coven. You have 3 days. If it's sound, we'll use it. As the council ended and military leaders filed out, Daewon felt Lyrae take his hand. You're doing well, she whispered. They're starting to see what I see. I hope so, Daewon replied. Because if this plan fails, a lot of people will die. Then we make sure it doesn't fail, Lyrae said. That night, Daewon worked with Yuna and a small team of human advisors who had come to the palace. His friend Tysoon had arrived from the mercenary guild, bringing experience from dozens of conflicts. Together, they crafted a strategy that blended human guerrilla tactics with Velkari military strength. The plan was risky and unconventional. It involved small strike teams, false information, and psychological operations designed to make the rebels doubt their leaders and question their cause. It was exactly the kind of thinking that had helped Day One pass the trial of worth. As he finalized the details, knowing that in days the shooting would start and lives would be lost, Day One thought about how far he had come, from a simple bodyguard to a prince-to-be, from an outsider to someone helping shape the future of an empire, all because he had broken his shield to save someone in need. The galaxy was about to learn that humans brought more than just courage to the stars. They brought new ways of thinking, new strategies, new possibilities, and sometimes that was more powerful than any weapon. The battle began not with ships firing at each other, but with whispers and shadows. Day One's plan started with information warfare. Human hackers working with Velkari intelligence spread messages throughout the rebel fleet. They claimed Lord Theron was planning to betray his allies and take all power for himself. They showed false financial records suggesting he had been stealing from the other noble houses. At first, the rebels ignored these messages, but doubt is a powerful weapon. When small strike teams began hitting rebel supply convoys, the nobles started blaming each other. When communication relays were sabotaged, they couldn't coordinate properly. The rebels had expected a grand fleet battle. Instead, they found themselves fighting shadows and their own suspicions. Admiral Coven led the main Velkari fleet in a careful advance, never committing to full battle. Meanwhile, Day One personally led a team of human mercenaries and Velkari volunteers in hit-and-run attacks. They were fast, unpredictable, and everywhere at once. The rebels never knew where the next strike would come from. Tae-sun piloted the small attack ship while Day One and his team boarded enemy vessels, captured key officers, and gathered intelligence. It was dangerous work. Twice they barely escaped. But every mission weakened the rebel coalition a little more. After 2 weeks of this unconventional warfare, one of the rebel houses surrendered. Then another. Lord Theron's alliance was crumbling. He gathered his remaining forces around his flagship, a massive warship called the Iron Throne, and made one final stand. The Empress's fleet surrounded Theron's position. Admiral Kovan sent a message offering surrender terms. Theron refused. "I will not bow to a human-corrupted empress," his reply came back. "If I must die, I will die with honor." "Then let me face him," Day One said. He stood on the bridge of the Empress's command ship, Princess Lyrae beside him. "Let me board his flagship with a small team. And this without destroying an entire fleet. That's suicide," Admiral Kovan said. "His ship has 2,000 soldiers aboard." "Not if we use the maintenance tunnels," Day One replied, showing schematics on the display. "These older ships have weak points. We can get a team inside, reach Theron, and capture him. Without their leader, the rest will surrender. The Empress considered this. You're about to be married to my daughter. I should not allow you to risk your life like this." "With respect, Your Majesty," Day One said. "This is exactly why I should go. I need to prove that humans can fight alongside Velkari as equals. Not behind them, not beneath them, but beside them." Princess Lyrae grabbed his hand. "Then I'm coming with you." "Absolutely not," both the Empress and Day One said at the same time. But Lyrae's eyes were fierce. "This rebellion started because of me. Because Theron couldn't accept a human in the royal family. I won't hide while others fight my battles." The Empress looked at her daughter for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "You are more like me than I sometimes admit. Go, both of you. End this." The boarding team consisted of Day One, Lyrae, Tae-sun, Yuna, and 6 Velkari Special Forces soldiers. They used a small stealth shuttle to approach the Iron Throne from below, where sensors were weakest. Cutting through the hull took 20 tense minutes while enemy patrols passed nearby. Inside the flagship, they moved through dark maintenance passages. Twice they had to hide from guards. Once they had to fight. A brief and silent struggle that left 3 rebel soldiers unconscious. Yuna, despite being just a handmaiden, fought with surprising skill that made Day One realize he had underestimated her. They reached the command deck where Theron waited. The doors opened and they found him alone except for 2 bodyguards. He had been expecting them. "So the human comes to face me himself," Theron said, drawing his sword. "Good, let's end this properly. Just you and me, Day One. If you win, my forces surrender. If I win, your team leaves and the battle continues." "Don't trust him," Lyrae warned. But Day One stepped forward. I accept, the fight was brutal. Theron was a master swordsman with decades of training and natural Velkari strength. Day One had only basic sword skills and his human determination. Theron's blade cut across Day One's shoulder, then his leg. Blood flowed and pain screamed through his body. "You're weak," Theron said, pressing his advantage. "This is why humans should never be equal to Velkari. You lack our strength, our honor, our superiority." Day One blocked another strike barely, his vision blurred from blood loss. But something Theron said sparked anger deep inside him. "You talk about honor," Day One gasped. "But you sent assassins to kill me in the dark. You talk about strength, but you fear change so much you started a war. You're not fighting for the Empire. You're fighting because you're afraid." He lunged forward, not with proper technique, but with raw human stubbornness. Theron parried, but Day One didn't stop. He kept attacking, kept pushing, ignoring his wounds, ignoring the pain. Humans didn't give up. That was their strength. Finally, Theron made a mistake, overconfident in his superior skill. Day One caught his blade, breaking 2 fingers in the process, and drove his own sword forward. The blade stopped an inch from Theron's throat. "Yield," Day One said, breathing hard. "It's over." Theron looked into his eyes and saw something that made him finally understand. This human would never quit, never surrender, never stop fighting for what he believed in. That kind of determination couldn't be beaten, only respected. "I yield," Theron said quietly. "My forces will stand down." The wedding took place 3 months later after the Empire had stabilized and the rebel territories had been reintegrated. The ceremony was held in the Grand Palace Plaza, with over 1 million people in attendance and billions watching across the Empire. Day One wore armor specially made for him, blending Earth and Velkari designs. Princess Lyra wore traditional royal robes that shimmered like starlight. Yuna stood as her honor attendant, tears of joy streaming down her face. Tyson and other human friends stood with Daiwan, proud representatives of their species. Empress Valira herself conducted the ceremony. She spoke about how strength comes in many forms, how courage knows no boundaries of birth or species, and how the Empire was entering a new age of cooperation and growth. When Daiwan and Lyra exchanged their vows, he promised to stand as her shield, though he had no shield left to give. She promised to stand as his sword, protecting him as he had protected her. The symbolism was clear to everyone watching. This marriage was about partnership, equality, and mutual respect. The celebration lasted 3 days. Humans from every colony came to attend. Other alien species sent representatives curious about this unprecedented union. The galaxy was watching, and what they saw was the beginning of something new. 5 years passed. Daiwan and Lyra had 2 children, twins named Heijin and Sumin. The boy had his mother's beautiful eyes, but his father's stubborn determination. The girl had her father's quick thinking, but her mother's natural grace. They were healthy, happy, and proof that humans and Velkari were more compatible than anyone had believed possible. Daiwan had become Prince Consort and Special Ambassador for Human-Velkari relations. He used his position to create exchange programs between Earth and the Empire, to improve working conditions for human employees, and to build mixed-species military units that combined the best of both cultures. Change came slowly, but it came. One evening, Daiwan stood on the palace balcony, watching his children play with both human and Velkari friends in the gardens below. The broken shield that had started everything was now displayed in the Royal Museum, with an inscription that read, "From broken protection came unbreakable bonds." Lyra joined him, wrapping her arms around his waist. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "About how strange life is," Daiwan replied. 5 years ago I was just a bodyguard who got lucky. Now look at all this. "It wasn't luck," Lyra said. "It was choice. You chose to sacrifice yourself for someone you didn't know. You chose to face the trial of worth. You chose to fight for us even when it was dangerous. Every step was a choice." Daiwan smiled and kissed her. "Best choices I ever made." A message arrived on his communication device. It was from the Intergalactic Protection Guild. More humans wanted to join, inspired by his story. They wanted to prove themselves among the stars, to show that humanity had value beyond their homeworld. "More applications?" Lyra asked, reading over his shoulder. "Hundreds," Daiwan said, "all because one human broke his shield and people noticed." He thought about the young man he had been, desperate and uncertain, fighting just to survive in a galaxy that didn't respect his kind. Now he was helping reshape that galaxy, opening doors for all humanity, proving that humans belonged among the stars. The twins called out from the garden, wanting their parents to join them. Daewon and Lyrae went down together, hand in hand, to play with their children under alien suns. The Empire still had problems, and there was still prejudice to fight, still battles to win. But for the first time in history, humans had a real place in this part of the galaxy. They had earned respect, earned citizenship, earned the right to stand as equals. And it all started with one broken shield, one desperate sacrifice, and one human who refused to believe that where you came from mattered more than what you chose to do. The galaxy was changing, one choice at a time, and Daewon was proud to be part of it.